If you knew, you have to have known that the handgun was lost or stolen and then did not report it to the police. So if you reported it to the police, although under your scenario it was a shotgun, which wouldn't apply here, but if you reported your firearm, your handgun, lost or stolen to the police, then you would have complied with this reform, and you wouldn't be subject to any fine or any penalty of any kind.
Can I reply to that, Therese?
Yes, sir.
Okay, first of all, that's in the determination of the prosecutor. And as we all know, you can't really rely on those individuals to apply the law correctly. And I'll give you an example. Chester County, there's a Marine returning home from 12 years active duty. He gets stopped in a traffic stop. He bought a handgun from out of state. He has a concealed carry permit from Pennsylvania. During the course of the stop, he tells law enforcement that I'm carrying a handgun and shows them his license. When they find out that the firearm is not in the state police database, and it's not required by law to be in there, they confiscate the handgun and they arrest him. The fact is that Lyndon Johnson said, we don't look at laws in the light of the good it will do, but the harm it will do when it's improperly administered or enforced. And that's the situation we have here. We're talking about theoretical situations when Mr. Grace doesn't understand that the application in the field is far different, and you make gun owners go to court and spend thousands of dollars trying to get their rights back. And it's wrong, and it's focusing in the wrong direction.
Mr. Stouffer, in 1994, Congress banned a certain type of assault weapons, but the ban expired in 2004. Would you support reauthorizing that assault weapons ban?
Absolutely not. We stand by the National Academy of Sciences that says that didn't work. The Centers for Disease Control said it didn't work. And every legitimate academician that studied this says it was a bankrupt idea that had flaws from beginning to end.
At a press conference just last week, when Governor Rendell and Mayor Nutter in Philadelphia, following the murder of Officer Lesbinsky, called on Congress to take up the issue again of the federal assault weapons ban, Governor Rendell cited statistics from police officials, from police agencies, that violent crime with assault rifles had in fact declined from 1994 to 2004. So I think that, again, what you see here is that we can debate statistics all we want, back and forth all night long. We're appealing to the good common sense of Pennsylvanians and gun owners whose rights to purchase handguns lawfully we respect, and hunters and sportsmen whose rights to hunt we respect. We're appealing to their common sense that everybody knows we have a problem with access to handguns, that there's too many of them on our streets, and that if we could work together with some reasonable reforms, not banning, some reasonable reforms like reporting your handgun lost or stolen to the police, like taking the SKS rifle, gun stores voluntarily, taking it out of the stream of commerce, we could take steps together to make Pennsylvania safer. That's what we're going to stay focused on each and every day.
Now, Mr. Grace, you just mentioned Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter, and he recently signed 5 local gun measures into law. What were those 5 ordinances designed to do?
I think actually you've heard us talk about some of these reforms tonight. In the local ordinances, as I understand it, that Mayor Nutter signed into law, one is a lost or stolen handgun reporting requirement. One is a 1 handgun a month purchase limitation. One is a assault weapons restriction or ban. One has to do with domestic violence incidents and access to a firearm or a handgun. And one has to do with individuals with a mental health history. Those ordinances were signed into law by City Council. They would only apply in Philadelphia. They were signed by the mayor. The NRA has sued to block enforcement of those laws. It's in Philadelphia Common Pleas Court now. It will likely go on up through the court system, perhaps to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. And on that issue, I guess we would just ask the NRA, which is leading the opposition to those laws, in terms of any reasonable reform, what is the NRA for? Because they always say no to everything. And I think, again, common sense, people understand we have a problem. What are they for? What reasonable reform will they be for to help make Philadelphia's streets safer or the streets of Pennsylvania safer?
Mr. Stouffer, I'm going to give you about a minute to respond to tell us what your thoughts are on the ordinances that Mayor Nutter signed in Philadelphia.
Terrific. First of all, the last two, domestic violence and mental health, are already in Pennsylvania Uniform Firearms Act. So it's a null issue, and there's no reason for introducing it. The last three, or the first three, are violations of Pennsylvania law. And I find it interesting that Mr. Grace here, decides he wants to pick and choose what laws he enforces, because each one of those ordinances that were passed and signed into law is a crime under Pennsylvania law. It's punishable by Section 6119, which is a misdemeanor 1 crime for each one, because they are prohibited by Section 6120 from passing these laws. So we find this to be an affront to every Pennsylvania citizen and the legislature when they try to bypass the constitutional process and violate the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, who has said they can't do this. So who is acting intransigent and not following the law? And Mr. Gray should recognize the fact that what they did was illegal, and they should each one of them be prosecuted.
Gentlemen, we have a little under 5 minutes left, so I'm going to try to squeeze in some phone callers who have been patiently waiting. We have Bart on the line from Pittsburgh. Bart, go ahead, please.
I believe this question would be for Mr. Stouffer. A couple of things. One, I picked up some literature at a gun show, and it seems now that the Pennsylvania State Police are checking juvenile records. When did that kick in? I always thought the juvenile records were protected. And on what level did this come in? Was this a state level, or is this mandated by the federal government that juvenile records are now open?
The juvenile record checks came in 1999. In state, and there was a federal overlapping law passed. They are not protected when it comes to violent crimes. And in many ways, Pennsylvania law is much more restrictive, as the Brady campaign is recognized, and they check far more than the federal government does. There are statewide disqualifiers that are much more punitive and far-reaching, going down even into simple misdemeanors.
Helen from Harrisburg, you're next, ma'am.
I have the answer to why the SKS is needed. When I moved my family out of Rizzo's, Philadelphia, to take them to a smaller county in western Pennsylvania, our neighbors were police, and their children, and they were involved in drugs. The state police did nothing. I had nothing but a 410 for hunting that I had gotten. We were at a very great disadvantage. I now live in the suburbs of Harrisburg in Dauphin County. And the police here will not take care of the drug dealers that are out on the streets in the suburbs. And now I have an SKS to protect myself. I'm disabled, and I need it.
We're going to let those comments stand, and we're going to go off to Pittsburgh and hear from Evan. Evan, thank you for holding, sir.
Yes. In regards to the last caller, there was an incident in California, if you remember, a couple of years back when you had criminals running the streets after a bank robbery with SKSs. If we did not have those and there was a ban on them, we would not have been able to protect ourselves. It's the criminals that have them that we need to worry about. We can ban them all we want. SKSs do not kill people. People kill people. They make those decisions to do that.
And now we're off to... Oh, go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to ask a question of the caller. If it was out of a sense of civic duty by gun dealers in Pennsylvania, harder, if not just unavailable, to purchase the SKS, don't you think that in the long run there would be fewer SKS assault rifles of the kind used to murder, assassinate, as Commissioner Ramsey put it, a Philadelphia police officer, on the streets of Pennsylvania? I know I do. And I think that's why, Joe. If I just to finish up, that's why we asked gun store owners voluntarily to consider this step. No one's talking about a ban.
Joe, let me ask a question. Why did Chief Ramsey and your organization never say where the gun came from that the criminals used to kill the officer?
It's my understanding that the gun, I think it was discussed by Philadelphia Police, actually, not to correct you on that point, but I think Philadelphia Police did put the information out. I think the gun emanated originally at a gun show in North Carolina and then move through a series of hands. I'm not sure that law enforcement has yet indicated what series of hands, but it moved through
That's
a
what
series.
I'm talking about.
It moved through a series of hands before it wound up in Philadelphia. I think we'll find that out in the criminal trial to come. But the point being that if gun store owners would voluntarily take this step, obviously,
Mr.
it would
Grace,
mean
you said that. Now,
it
my
would mean,
question to
it would
you is
mean
you're
that there would
talking
be
about a
fewer.
ban.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to try to squeeze in one final phone call. We have Mary on the line from Wilkes-Barre. Mary, go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi. I had the question, but now I just have a comment. I keep on hearing illegal, illegal. Obviously, everyone has a great respect for the Constitution and the men who wrote it. But I honestly can't believe or understand how a responsible gun owner cannot want to list a gun on a lost and found or feel that the Founding Fathers all meant us to have a personal arsenal. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been very enlightening.
I really appreciate your remark.
Well, I would point out that exactly what the Constitution says. The right of the citizen bear arms in defense of themselves and the state shall not be questioned. We're questioning it tonight. This woman questioned it. That's her right. That's what I fought for. That's what my son fought for. But that doesn't give her the freedom or the latitude to dictate exactly what my freedoms are if I'm going to be a law-abiding citizen.
With rights come responsibilities. And I think that I respect freedoms as much as my opponent tonight in this debate. But with rights come responsibilities, whether it's the right to speak freely or the right to carry a firearm or the right to be free of unreasonable search or seizure by the government. With rights come responsibilities.
Joe,
And
we
what
have
we- and what we're-
126 pages of responsibilities for law-abiding citizens, and yet you say nothing about the failure of the courts to uphold those.
I will repeat, I don't want to let that go unchallenged, that with regard to the three criminals that were responsible for the death of Officer Lesbinski, they never should have seen the light of day. But that doesn't change the fact that we have a problem of gun violence in our state. We have access to too many illegal handguns.
It does change the fact. He shouldn't have been on the street.
If I could finish,
and you're
it's
not
too easy.
mentioning that.
I've already said he shouldn't have been on the street. I'm not sure how much clearer I can make it. We have
Make
access
it clearer in Harrisburg, in the halls of the Capitol.
And, well, actually, that's a good way to come close to closing, that in the halls of the Capitol recently, after the debate over Lost and Stolen led to a floor debate and a vote in the House, there was a rally on the other side. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago. And one of the responses on this whole debate was to raffle off a handgun on the floors of the Capitol.
That's
and
right.
I said then, and I'll say it again tonight, I think that was insensitive to crime victims and gun violence victims across our state.
That
Mr.
was a
Stoll for a
legitimate
30-second response, and we
opportunity.
have to close. Go ahead, sir.
That was a legitimate opportunity to thank the people for showing up, and it was a raffle for a ticket for them to pick it up. And what you're saying, it was illegal and inappropriate for a citizen to be given a item that's available in local commerce that's lawful, and he shouldn't be given that?
I didn't say it was
I think
illegal.
That's an insult
Unfortunately,
to the
gentlemen, that is
Constitution of our
it.
state.
I'm sorry, we are out of time. Mr. Kim Stolfer, board member for the Allegheny County
you.
Sportsman League and chair of Firearm Owners Against Crime, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
And Mr. Joe Grace, executive director of Ceasefire PA, thank you for joining us as well.
Teresa, thank you very much.
Callers and viewers, as always, we'd like to thank you for tuning in this evening and remind you to join us for our next call-in program, live Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Judicial elections and merit selection will be discussed by Lynn Marks, Executive Director of the Pennsylvanians for Modern Courts, Barry Kaufman, the Executive Director of Common Cause Pennsylvania, and Russ Diamond, founder of Pennsylvania Clean Sweep. Call in with your questions and comments live Tuesday at 7 p.m. I'm Teresa Elliott, and as always, thanks for watching.